right. Let's give bull streams here to get synced up. A chance to get synced up, and we'll get started. Just a second. All right, both look like they are good to go now. We got about 8 minutes until the close. So around the end of this, we'll see kind of if anything's changed. I kind of doubt it unless some kind of news were to come out here before the close, but likely we've seen what today is going to look like. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for February 14th, 2022. Q is going to close here basically flat. SPY down 1/3%, was showing relative weakness all throughout the day, and then IWM more or less flat, down almost 0.5% there. All right, so coming into today, bearish on the Qs and SPY, and I guess you could say IWM as well, because I expect the IWM will follow. We have that double top on the daily, okay, and I was saying we come in today, we'll still be bearish. I thought if we gapped up, we'd probably get sold. If we gapped down, a little bit of a harder scenario. We did gap down in the pre-market, but that ended up bouncing, and then by the time the open, it was a very small gap down. And we didn't end up doing a whole lot. As far as the Qs here, I'm going to close here as a pretty neutral bar, as you can see here. So neutral bar doesn't really change much for us going into tomorrow, remaining bearish on the Qs and SPY. Okay, hourly downtrend still intact. Don't really have any changes for right now as far as what we need to see to be bullish. We saw this double top in the way. As long as we stay below that for right now, that's what I'm going to be watching for. Okay? All right. Let's get into the plays from today. Now, if you were in the room today, you were trading the open with me today, and because the list was not very good, I wanted to put as much time into finding anything additional, if there was. It's a hard balance. Sometimes, like I think last Thursday and Friday, there were just so many things to look at that there wasn't really much time to scan because there were good gaps to go after. Today, not so much. Weber was okay. Now, a little bit fortunate in the Weber that this was not available for me. Otherwise, I would have played this, which actually got some decent follow through on the Weber. So 890 by 890 by 9 something. So that's like 20 cents stop. It doesn't quite go 2 Rs, but yeah, I mean, not bad on the Weber. It wasn't available. And then actually the bigger move came to the upside. We did look at this. I guess this breakout's kind of interesting. I wouldn't have played it though. So anyway, couldn't play the Weber. Okay, and then SPLK I looked at. I thought that, it just wasn't as cleared of this resistance as I wanted it to be, although the gap is good and it did have an entry, ended up letting that go. So initially at the open, I kind of wasn't sure, if we were going to find anything. I had 2 things, SPLK and WEBR were on the favorites, but nothing else. There was nothing else on the favorites, and nothing else that I wanted to play at the open. So we did some scanning, right? What did we do at the scan? Based on the scan, I did gainers and decliners with a volume filter, so at least 300,000. So you're not going to get too many things at the open, but things that you will get are typically going to be moving, and gap scan. Okay, so what did we find? BHG from the decliners. If I had the $300,000 or 300,000 volume scan, basically when it opened, it was already there. Excuse me, there's 232,000. So this came up. Mentioned it as a climactic to play this bounce here. It really didn't get that far. It was a tight stop, so I think this gives you about 2 Rs. What ended up being the best for the BHG today were all the scalps to the downside. Okay, all these scalps, these breakdowns, were all pretty good. I guess the flip worked at some point here. I never tried it as a flip. And then also from the gap scan, found the AJRD. Now the AJRD, this tried to break out into the void, declining 20 though in the way, and then gapped underneath that bar. Okay, so AJRD, if you were tuned in on the mic, I gave it to you verbally because there wasn't really that much time. Because from the time that I find it to when I just say, okay, I'm going to play it, to when it triggers is, I don't know, probably within a few minutes, all of that. So this was pretty decent though. I got filled at 74 entry. I tried to get it under 80. Got filled at 74. That's fine. A little bit of slippage, and then above 38.05 was the stop. So above 38.05. So yeah, based on where the 20 MA is. I did take some a little bit early. It was a little bit jumpy when it did this big pop right here, and it was, if you were listening, I kind of was like, oh, well, I don't like that. So there's, I kind of want to kill it, but then I don't really have anything in my plan that says I get to kill it. So, there's what I kind of want to do and there's what I'm supposed to do. So in that situation, I recognized I'm not supposed to kill it. I'm supposed to stick with it. And that was good. And then when it came back down, I thought, okay, gave me a little bit of a hard time. And then as it was kind of breaking down to that below the 37.50, I decided, okay, I'll trail some. So I took a portion there. Was really looking for something closer to 37, which I think we got there basically while I was still on the mic. Yeah, as I was about to get off the mic, finally we got to what should have been the real first target, closer to 37. But this actually went much beyond that. You can see here's 37. Set up another entry. I mentioned as this was breaking down at lunch, if you want to add to it, you could. I decided not to add to it. And then impressive recovery. This kind of reversal, not my kind of thing, but that's, always impressive to see. Ended up, I think the max on this was like 5.3, I think, R's on this. And then hourly keeps you in for most of the way. You definitely want to be out of it by now. For me, anything that I'm in, last 30 minutes is where I get out of it. So, we can take a look at this here on the AJRD. Let's see where the bounce started to happen. Yeah. So for me, if I'm in this, if I have it into going into the last 30 minutes, I have to start trailing it. So this bounce, though, I got to say, definitely happened earlier. It actually happened right at 3 o'clock. So you could have some kind of rule to get it out even earlier. AJRD, 3 o'clock is when the bounce happened. Not too long ago, I guess about a week ago, we had the VIAV. And same rule applied. We were in it till the end of the day because it had just been grinding up the whole day. And yeah, so this is the rule. Once we get to the last half hour, that's when I said, okay, we got to get out of it. Because you often have these reversals. They don't always happen this way. They don't always happen at the same time. But that's just something, you're managing a play as traders who've been in it, like us, start to get out of it. Sometimes you can see a little bit of a rush to the exit. So there's a closing bell. So that's why it's important to start to trail as you approach the last 30 minutes or so. But as we saw, AJRD got the bounce right at the whole on the hour instead. So, but even if you were getting rid of it at the half hour point, that's still where my last exit was. So it was not even that late, and well below my first exit. So. Anyway, I just wanted to go over that. I think not so much in earnings season is it an issue, but as we get out of earnings season, scanning at the open a lot of times finds the best place. And I thought for me, from what I saw today, AJRD and BHG were the ones, and we didn't have these on the initial gaps list or as initial favorites. Okay. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's market wrap. We will be back at it tomorrow, and I'll talk to you then. Have a good evening.